Welcome back to Living Through the Shift podcast. I'm Tiffany J. Harris. I'm your host, and I'm so excited you're here. So before we get started in this episode, I just want to give a special thanks to the Russell Nashville for letting us host our podcast there. Also, this next episode is really special to me. I've invited my friend Crystal Marshall onto the show, and she has so many great experiences about career, and we touch on a lot of things. The reason why this episode might not be as super caregiver heavy is because a lot of us are caregivers, but a lot of us also have careers and families, and we are multifaceted outside of this role that we have. And Crystal really touches on that. So we're having a really great time in this episode. I'm really excited for you all to see it and really just hear about how to prepare, how to take care of yourselves, and really how to be the best version of yourself before or even while you're still in this phase of life. I know for me, I took a pause, and if I had even thought further of how I could prepare myself once things happened, that would have made things a lot easier. So even if right now you're in this stage of caregiving and you feel like I'm stuck in a freeze mode, it's not as bad yet. Just remember that you have time and that there's things that you can do to build the life that you want for yourself, even while things are still chaotic. So I really hope you enjoy this podcast, and I really think you'll love this episode as much as I did. All right, thanks.
Well, I am so excited to have my first guest, Crystal Marshall. I'm so excited. But before I get started, let me go ahead and talk about how awesome Crystal is. Crystal has stumbled upon many ways to utilize her writing gifts as an employee and an entrepreneur. Since 2009, she has been a career coaching expert and CEO of Right to Success, LLC. Seeking to impact the masses, she focuses on assisting clients in writing their way to opportunity through effective resume revamps, LinkedIn profile overhauls, and cover letter creation. And you enjoyed the forever changing entertainment industry scene for 8 years, from July 2016 to July 2014, where you served as executive assistant to the president of media sales at BET Networks, a subsidiary of Paramount Global, also CBS, in Chicago. She was responsible for best assisting talent at noteworthy events at BET Awards, book signings, Essence Festival, Soul Train Awards, and you worked with VIP talent, which include Derrick Rose, NBA All-Star, Breezy from the Netflix show All American, Damon John of Shark Tank, R&B phenom Genuine, Sway Calloway, world-renowned D Nice of Club Quarantine, Chris Garner from the Pursuit of Happiness movie, Mike Bivins of New Edition, and many more. And also, I'm going to say Dame Dash gave you a compliment and said she handles it. So you are like the new Olivia Pope. And in 2021, she became the lead editor for a magazine called Waymaker Journal. And she excelled as a published writer in both Waymaker and Inspire publications for 6 consecutive years, where you were also a team lead and on-site talent manager at the annual men's conference in Chicago known as the Waymakers Men's Summit. In a roundabout way, you've used your BA in business management to capitalize on your BET opportunities and spearhead your success. And also, you have launched a new business called Crystal Marshall Certified, which is an elite training business geared towards elevating personal and executive assistants of high-level executives and celebrities. You are starting a book called 23 Years to Get to 365 Days of Singleness. You set a goal to save $100,000 before departing your BET career, but you fulfilled that goal of 75%, and you also accumulated $200,000 in your 401k within those 8 years by depositing aggressively. And you just celebrated 15 years of your podcast and community, Real Talkin' Jeans. And you just have an awesome Chicago story, and you were raised by mother, grandmother, and grandfather. And I feel like you're my other big sister. I call her that because she's my sister's best friend, but I'm so annoying. So I'm basically like a little sister. I've adopted myself. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it.
You're so awesome. So we're both Chicago girls. So I did not know that your background was in business management, because I know you were always doing resume and other stuff. So before we get started, I know a lot of people are going to say, Crystal's on this podcast, and what is she going to talk about? Caregiving, career. And I feel like you have a really great aspect of career, especially because before we become caregivers, we have a career, we're working on upward mobility. And I feel like you have a great story of resilience. So I wanted to first let's talk about humble beginnings because I feel like you're really humble. But also, what does humble mean to you?
Humble means to me, I think it's your character of not getting a big head just because you do whatever it is that you do. And still treating people kindly. It's still getting back to people in a timely manner. It's still being respectful of people's time and just being really nice. I have like a professional thought process of excellence. Like I want to be great at whatever it is that I do, but I don't want to lose sight of who I am, and I don't want to go on a power trip or ego trip when I'm trying to accomplish something. So I have a get it done attitude, but I'm not going to get it done and roll over somebody while I do it.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off and say you have a post where you list your previous job experience, which included being an admissions counselor in higher education, a management trainee at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, a resume writer for Right to Success, and a licensed personal banker at Chase Bank. At the top of the post, you put make it make sense. Can you please explain how you were able to pivot into a role where you wore many hats? And can you talk about how to truly show your transferable skills, not only just on resumes, but in real life?
Yes. So I have never shortchanged myself when I didn't like a job. And I had a godfather that told me, like, you can't keep bouncing around, because literally I did each of those jobs like 1 year, maybe 2 at max. But I wasn't happy at those jobs, but I did them for a purpose. So I didn't know that I wouldn't be unhappy. I went into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, I was an admissions counselor because I like to travel and I like kids. So I was like, this might be good. And then I didn't like it. And then I was like, oh, let me use my management degree. Enterprise has a management trainee program. Then I didn't like that. Like, I was washing cars, I was picking people up, I was dropping them off. I'm like, I was working 12-hour days. I said, what is this? I didn't like it. Then I was like, oh, banking. I want to learn about finance. Maybe if I go do shorter hours, because banking hours are like 9 to 5. And I could learn about finances in the same time. And I could be licensed, because we had to get a Series 6 and a Series 63 and a life insurance license, which was paid for by Chase. And that basically lets you sell mutual funds. So I was like, oh, I could go make money. I could learn about money, and I could have shorter hours. So that was my reason for doing that. Didn't like that either. So then, so I've never felt stuck. I'm always like, oh, I got to figure this out. I knew I needed money. I knew I needed a job, but I didn't feel like I had to stay no matter what. I felt like as long as I could provide for myself and as long as I could figure out how to find something else, then I'm open to looking until I figure out what I actually like. So I didn't like Chase. And the story with Chase is that my aunt, she was my favorite aunt, she was diagnosed with cancer. And I was working at Chase at the time. So I was going to go see her after work every day for those 30 days. And I was on time every day because I left work at the same time, got on the train, went to go see her. And one day I was late because I went to get food first. So when I walked into her room, she was staring at the clock, and she was like 40 something when she passed. So she's looking at the clock, and I started apologizing, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just went to go get food. That's why I'm running a little bit late. And she's like, no, I just feel like I wasted my time. So she's looking at the clock in her room because she felt like she didn't do what she wanted to do with her life. She worked at Allstate Insurance, but she was super creative with like events and gifts and interior decorating, but she didn't do it professionally. So she thought she had more time, which is why she worked at Allstate for like 25 years. So she was like, I just don't want you to waste your time. Figure out what you want to do in life and just go do it. And she's like, don't spend another second doing something that you don't want to do because you don't know how much time you have. So she passed the next week. And then when she passed after the funeral and all that, I quit. Like, I just went to Chase and quit. Didn't have a plan, didn't have savings, didn't have anything. But I was just like, I can't waste my time. And then I said, what is it that I can do that I enjoy, that I'd be good at, that's recession proof? And I wrote like a list out on top of a piece of paper. It literally said, what do I like to do, on a blank piece of paper. I wrote down anything. It could have been shopping. It could have been roller skating. It could have been writing. Resume writing was on the list. And then I said, what's recession proof? Because it was 2009. So we were in a recession. And resume writing was something I considered recession proof because no matter what, everybody needs a job. So then I picked resume writing. Then I was like, how am I going to market it? And I just started talking about it on Facebook posts every day, like several times a day. And then I was watching, I felt like I was doing it too often. So I was watching some show on TV and the McDonald's commercial kept replaying for all the commercial breaks. And I was like, well, if McDonald's plays their commercial all the time, then me posting all the time is not a bad thing. It's marketing. You have to post all the time. So I just kept posting all the time. And then I became known as the resume lady. That's pretty much how it happened.
Oh my God. All right.
I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. I had a Hotmail account that was right to success. And I had Facebook, and I just made it happen.
Which is still helpful. And I'm sorry about your aunt. And I remember that story because I feel like a lot of us feel like we do have enough time and we spend time in these roles. And it's like that's really hard because we're afraid. And I think
we have ourselves in those, like we put ourselves in there. We don't have to
right.
stay, but we feel like we have to. Like we put our own selves in the box, we put our own ceiling, and then we say somebody else did it to us. But we have a choice. We can leave.
You can leave. Oh, you can leave. So that was a really pivotal change for you because you're like going through grief and then you transfer and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna do this, which I'm sure. How did people react to that? Like you just leaving a job in the middle of a recession?
Well, I didn't really broadcast it besides putting it on Facebook that I was doing the business. So people didn't know that I also quit the job and I was doing the business. My mom knew. I didn't talk about it with friends much either. I was just in do mode at that time. And I also signed up with like temp agencies in case I wasn't making the money I needed and I needed extra money, but I didn't want a full-time job. So I signed up with like 5 different temp agencies. And if I needed extra money, I would just go do a job for a couple of days, get the money and be done. So,
and I feel like you always know when to move. Were you always like that? Or is that something that you've learned?
I learned it more in adulthood. I think in like school age days, you just have to do what you have to do. Like, you got to go from one grade to the next. You don't get to practice it that much in like school age. In college, I know for sure I did not want to be a business major. And I didn't want to go to the school I went to. I really wanted to go to Howard University. And my high school years and like school years from 2nd to 12th grade was predominantly white. So I wanted to go to Howard because I wanted a Black school experience. But I forgot that Howard is all Black, so they don't need Black kids. So you don't get in because you're Black. And I got in, but I didn't get financial aid. And I'm like, so maybe I'm not going to Howard. So let me see. Because I didn't see the point in taking out loans that's like crazy when some other school, even though I had never heard of Earlham, another school is offering money. So I'm like, Earlham it is. Like I had to pivot. That was my first moment in life where I can remember where I was like, I just knew I was doing one thing and then numbers came through and I was like, okay, so I guess I'm going somewhere else. So and then I did take Earlham my freshman year. So my mom, she was like, well, figure out where you're going, figure out what the transfer process is like. My mom has always been that mom where she's like, you have to do the grunt work and then you let me know what you come up with and we'll figure it out together. So I did all of that, realized that my credits wouldn't transfer to a new school. So I would pretty much be like a 5th year senior if I transferred. And I was like, well, Earlham it is. I guess I'm staying here. So then I just changed my whole mindset about Earlham and just loved it the other 3 years because I knew I was going to be there. I couldn't leave. Like I couldn't leave and be financially okay or not be a 5th year senior. I was so against being a 5th year senior. I'm like, nope, Earlham, I'm staying here. We're going to have a ball. And I met your sister there. So ended up being a great experience. But that first year I was definitely like, I'm leaving. And I think that's the thing about life. Like you have these ideas of what you think things are going to be for better or worse. You have an idea. And then when you actually try it, that's the deciding factor. Like either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it. But at least you're in it now to know. Now it's not a guessing game because now you like, oh, okay, this doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look like. So now you have a new decision to make. But you have to remember that you can make a decision. You can always make a decision. Anytime somebody says, I don't have a choice, the choice to stay was your choice, or the choice to leave was your choice, but you always have a choice.
Yeah, it makes me, because I know you all love like Sex in the City, and it's like we're Charlotte, and she's like, I choose my choice. I choose my choice. And I feel like for some of us, including myself, I'm like, I chose my choice, but now I'm mad because I chose this choice, but I wanted this choice to work. And it like makes me want to like not be at this point.
Yeah, you chose your choice, but then you can also choose a new choice. Like people act like when they choose, they're stuck. You're not. You can still choose another choice.
You're never really stuck. So I feel like, I know sometimes for me, I feel like I'm stuck because I know it's the caregiver in me of like, I can't move. For someone who just, when life hits them, regardless of if they're a caregiver or not, but you're like, things are real, like I'm in the gutter. How do you get out of that mindset of I'm stuck? Because that, I think a lot of us feel like we are.
I'll share a story of when I was definitely in the gutter. This was in 2013 or 2012. I believe it's 2012. I was in a relationship of 5 years with the guy that I had met at Enterprise. And he ended up being a functional alcoholic, and then it was just a straight alcoholic. So I noticed it in like the 3rd year, but I still loved him, didn't want to give up on him. By the 5th year, it was like too evident for me to stay. So I'm like, okay, I gotta leave. I have to remove myself from this situation. But we also had like finances kind of tied up where he was into real estate and I had bought a property and it was in my name. And then I was trying to be the supportive girlfriend. So if he needed money and I didn't have it, I would charge it to a credit card. And back then, credit cards were like, you could have a $25,000 limit credit card easily. Like you could have 35. So I had like really high limits because my credit was good. So it just went bad. We broke up. I had to file bankruptcy and I had to go to court for the property that I had in my name because I needed it to be short sold or do a foreclosure or something. And I didn't know anything about real estate. So all of this was like hinged on us being together. So when we weren't together, I'm stuck holding the bag of like all these financial responsibilities. Even though we weren't married, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend, but I was just trying to be the loving, supportive girlfriend through it all. So when I had to file bankruptcy, that was a true low for me. The breakup was too. The breakup was very hard, but the bankruptcy, I was just looking at my credit score like, how did I go from where I was to this? Like, to file bankruptcy felt like the worst thing in the world to me. And I literally was sick to my stomach. Like I didn't deem myself depressed, but if I look back on it, maybe I was because it was hard to get out of bed, but I still got out of bed. I still made my bed every day. I took a lot of naps throughout the day though, because every conversation with a bill collector before I filed bankruptcy was just like draining. I'd answer one call a day and I'm just like, I have to take a nap. Like I eat, I take a nap. Anything I did, I needed a nap. Then I had to go to court for the building, didn't know anything about it. So I'm on the train going downtown, shaking in my boots. My mom was like, you want me to go with you? I'm like, no, I created this situation. So I'll go by myself and I just keep you updated. So I get on the train and I'm like so nervous. And the judge was like, are these properties? It was like 5 properties. He was like, are these yours? And I was like, no, it's actually my boyfriend's property. And he was like, well, because you showed up, I'm just going to throw the cases out. And when he said, because you showed up, I've always thought of that because sometimes we don't go places because we're scared of what might happen. So we don't even show up. And sometimes showing up is all you have to do. And then God will take care of the rest. So I always consider that lesson of just do your part and then just trust the rest, like no matter how scared you are. And I was literally like every train bus I got on that day, I was like, oh, nervous. I'm walking like to the city, all nervous. I'm just nervous. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen. They call my name. I'm like, I've never seen a judge in real life. Oh, I'm nervous. Like I was just so scared, but I did it.
How old were you when that happened?
I had to be late 20s, I think.
Okay, yeah, so that's like hard. No, because I'm laughing because I know what it's like to be like, my credit score dropped to like 200 points.
Yeah, it was bad. And last 10 years. Like I filed in 2013. So it didn't fall off until 2023. It lasts.
Wow.
And I was just like, so in new relationships, when guys ask for a lot of help, I'm like, nah, I have a 10-year lesson that I learned. Like a 10-year lesson. Like I call it that. And so it's nothing nobody can talk to me about when it comes to money or borrowing or whatever. I have a 10-year lesson that I will not repeat for anyone.
Never again. Never again, Kelly Clarkson. No, I understand. Thank you for sharing that because I feel like it's definitely hard out here in these streets financially for a lot of people. Were you always financially savvy?
I was read a lot of books. I've always read a lot of like Robert Kiyosaki cash flow books. Anything money related. Because when I first graduated from college, I was reading like Zane books, anything that was not school related. I was like, oh, this is juicy. And then one day I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not helping me progress in life. Let me start reading something else. So I started reading self-help books and like financial books. That's all I started reading. But before it was Zane for sure. So I was pretty good at money just from reading books, but then love and emotions took me in another way. But then when I came back to myself, then I got back on the path of like, you actually know what to do, just do that.
So you went to BET. I remember when you first started working there. What was that interview process like? And just tell me, like, how did you even know, like, I'm gonna do this? Or, did you want it? Like, what was all that behind the interview process and just getting the job and everything?
Well, I grew up without cable. We barely even had like TVs in our home. My mom wasn't really a TV watcher. So I didn't really watch BET unless I was at my favorite aunt's house where she would let us watch TV. So I knew about BET, very familiar with it, but didn't actually watch it that much. So I heard that Kelly Rowland had a dance show on BET when I was at home. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what time it comes on. Like, I just wanted to watch it. And I go to the website, the BT website, and I hear God say, click careers. And at this point is 2016. I haven't had a full-time job. I've just been doing resume writing and temp work whenever I need to from 2009 to 2016. So I'm like, why would I click careers? Like, I don't want a job, but I listen to God. So I click the button, careers. And I'm like, executive assistant to president of media sales. And I was like, but I can't move to New York right now. And then it said Chicago. And I was like, oh, it's in Chicago. I didn't know they had an office in Chicago. So then I was like, well, who's the president? So I started Googling that and I found it was Louis Carr. And I was like, well, who is Louis Carr? So I started Googling that. So I just went down a whole rabbit hole of Google. And then I read the job description. And this was the first time in life where I really felt like I was putting forth effort in deciding what I want to do, not just because I'm trying to get out of something else. And I also felt like if I get this interview, but I don't like him, or I feel like this company is not going to fit for me, then I'm not going to take it. So it was no pressure really for me. So I read the job description. I made my resume since I know how to do that. And I made my cover letter and I tailored it very much to him of all the things that I found on him online so that they knew that I did my research. And then they called me and maybe it was a couple weeks, maybe it was a month. It was kind of long. And they asked me to come in for an interview. I thought it was one person. It was 5 people, 5 hours long. Each person got an hour. And then they were like, we'll call you if you move to the next round. They called me in a couple weeks, maybe a month. This whole process took like 4 months. So they called me for that one. And that one was like an assimilation interview. And they had other candidates there too, but they looked older. So I didn't think they were real people. I thought this was like all made up. I didn't know that they also were going for the same job, even though they told me they were. But I was like, this got to be like a TV type of thing. I don't think so. So when they told us to do some project as if we were planning the BET Awards and they wanted to know how we'd handle it. So I immediately took the lead and I was like, well, what are you good at? What are you good at? I asked the other people in the room. They said what they were good at. I said what I was good at. So then I kind of told everybody what they were going to do, thinking that this wasn't real anyway. So I'm like, I might as well take the lead. This isn't even real. So, so then they pulled me out the room and they're like, we want you to move forward on the last interview, which is with Lewis. And at that time, I Googled him again before the interview and saw that he had just wrote a book, and he had just wrote it 2 weeks before. So I'm like, well, the interviews have been so spaced out, I should have time to read the book before I meet with him, I think. So I ordered the book, got it overnight, sent to me. I read it in 2 days, and then I knew everything about him. So by the time the interview came, his first question was, what do you know about me? And I smirked because I knew so much, and I knew so much.
Okay.
I was very well prepared. And then he was like, we're going to play this game. I'm going to say a word or a name, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So one of them he said was Drake. And I always say Drake is annoying. Like, I don't like Drake's voice. And I was like, oh, he's so he was like Drake. And I was like, annoying. And I was like, oh. I thought I messed up.
She lost the job before she got it. Okay.
So he just laughed, like he smirked and he laughed, and I was just trying to get a feel for him too. So the interview with him, he definitely led it, but I also chimed in and asked my questions because I was trying to see if I fit, if I felt like I fit based on what I know about myself. Because really, I didn't care if I got the job or not. Like, I'm going to put my best foot forward, but if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to put myself back in situations where I had jobs before that I hated. So I was like, we'll see. But I liked him. I felt like he liked me. They say they'll call me in like 3 weeks. And they called that night and said, you got the job. And then asked me if I could start the next day. Like, it was real fast after that.
And then you went from working, like your last job was Chase.
Yes.
And then before then you were just resume writing. And then you go to working as an executive assistant. And then you're managing the BET Awards. You're managing talent.
Mm-hmm.
How can you talk about how those skills transfer? Because everyone else, we always hear about like ATS, applicant tracking systems, and like, what are your transferable skills and things of that nature? And I feel like, how can we like go into the workforce now and say, okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. Like, how can we make an employer know this is what I'm good at? Like, how can we really legally sell ourselves? You know, if that makes sense.
Well, first, you have to believe that you can do it, because if you don't even believe that you can do it, you won't pursue it. Or if you do pursue it, you're going to be very like mousy about it. And you can't be mousy, because if you don't have confidence, then they don't have confidence in you. So where I start is the job description, and life skills are also experience. So it doesn't always have to be professional or career experience. So whether you learn something from your parents, whether you learn something from school, like all those things are still experience. So you count it. It's still something that makes you who you are. So I got a lot of experience writing, being a writer, a resume writer, being a writing tutor in college. I just learned that writing was my gift. And then my mom, I've never been an executive assistant, but my mom was. So I'm very organized by nature. And if you read job descriptions, they tell you the things that they care about. So if it's communication, if it's customer service, if it's client engagement, it lists it out for you, like problem solving skills. So then you're like, do I have this? And it doesn't matter where you got it from. You just like, do I have this? Do I have that? So, and most of the things you do have. So yeah. You put it together in like a functional resume format. Functional meaning you basically extract your skill sets and you put them at the top of the resume. And then after that, you can list out the jobs that you've had. But even in the jobs that you've had, when you make your bullet points, you want them to be relevant to the job that you want. So some people don't change the bullet points. They just put it all the same all the time. And like, if you wanted to be, let's say, a customer service rep, but all you talked about was like handling money, they didn't necessarily ask you, do you handle money? Maybe at this job you won't handle money, but you will interact with customers. So talk about the customer engagement. Don't talk about the money. Like you have to be very strategic about what it is that you say based on what you want, which is why I say looking for a job is a job, because you have to read the description so intensely in order to make sure that you're capturing what you need to attract what you want.
Okay, I love that. I think that's really helpful. I know the job market has changed. Do you
Mhm.
feel like now searching for a job or trying to get a job, it's what percentage is networking and what is the other percentage of my resume is good enough? Because I feel like sometimes people just get the job because of people they know. So, how is it
Yeah,
now?
I think it's a little bit of both, and it's also timing, and it's also um, a numbers game. Like you can't really just apply to one or two. Like you really have to make it your job to look for jobs, and you have to be very aggressive in it. It's a lot of preparation that you have to do. If you really want a certain job, I would put a lot of effort into researching the company, put a lot so your cover letter can be like, I've done my homework type of thing. And the tracking, that's not new, but some people seem like they feel like the ATS tracking is new and it's not. It's just more talked about now. But I did an internship in Philly in 2005 or 4, and they used the tracking system then. I was in HR and I didn't see a resume if it didn't get a certain number of hits before it even came to me to look at it from a person standpoint. So that has been happening for so long, but people act like it's so new and they're so nervous. I'm like, that's been happening. Like all these jobs you got in between, it happened. Like,
Yeah, that's how you got your resume because it was good enough to get through. So for HR, because I didn't, you just had all these jobs, so you were doing everything.
I
Uh,
try. I try things, and then if I don't like them, I move on.
you just move on. You did say that this was the longest job that you had had.
Yes.
What made you want to stay for so long?
It was not mundane, and I did end up working very long hours. Like enterprise was 12 hours a day, 7 to 7 literally, and I thought that was nuts. But I think part of it was nuts because I didn't know that that's what it was. I thought you start at 7, you probably get off at 2 or 3. In the interview, nobody told me I was going to work 12 hours every day. So had they told me, maybe I would have, at least understood it. But at BET, they told me you're going to work a lot of hours. They told me that before I got there. So I didn't know what a lot meant, but I knew that meant more than the 8 hours that you typically would work. But I think the beauty of that job was that I was sitting at tables that I've never sat at before. I've met some amazing people in the industry, whether they're celebrities or high executives. And the experience was it was different all the way around. Like it was not a mundane experience. Every day was a different day. So I realized I enjoy problem solving. I enjoy creating processes and systems, and I enjoy making people's experiences elite. And that job gave me the opportunity to do that. So I was able to come up with ways to achieve things that I've never had to do before in life, but just having the funds because they didn't care how much you spent, especially in my earlier years. They just like get it done. You don't care what it costs, just get it done. So having no cap was like very helpful to getting things done. You got to find the right vendors and the right, but you can get it done. They started to change that as the years went on, where they actually give real budgets, and I'm like, you don't need to spend house. So I like that, and I realized that I like managing talent because I am like such a hands-on person, and I can make someone's experience really good. So I think all those things helps me feel like I was actually being progressive and I was actually making a difference. And I went in with the thought process that I wanted to make a name for myself. I just wanted people to know my name when it was spoken, but I never wanted to be in the forefront. I like being in the background. I like being able to still walk outside and nobody knows me. Like that's good for me. I didn't want to be on a billboard or a commercial or anything. Like just let me stay back here, make all the magic happen, and then we just see it and be like, oh, that was nice.
You're really running the scenes, like you're running the show.
Yes.
And okay, so then I'll ask. So for since we're talking about BBT,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about Usher. What happened at the awards? Because his mic got cut off, and everyone was like, "So what really happened? Can you tell us?"
So the awards it's a business. Like everything is a business. And when you see commercials on whether you're watching a TV show or you're watching an award show, people paid a lot of money for those slots for their commercial to play. So if you're talking too long at an award show, they will move on. Like, so we heard the whole speech because we were sitting there. But yes, they will definitely move on because money has to be made. Like they
Oh my gosh. This McDonald's commercial gotta come through for the
to. If it doesn't come through, you owe McDonald's money for not doing what you said you were gonna do. And nobody wants to pay back what they they play it.
These budgets are for real now. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's the tea, people. It was because of marketing and advertising. Sorry, Usher. It was not a malfunction. It was money. I have another question. This is a fun question. Okay, so you talked a little bit earlier about like if you don't believe it, it's not gonna happen for you. So in Big Sean's song Bounce Back, he said, "Last night took an L, but tonight I bounce back." Can you tell us how to bounce back in hard times and have that mindset where we can finally have the confidence to change even in those difficult moments?
Yes. One of my favorite things that I look at, I have like small ones in my house, turtles. And the reason why I like turtles is because even if they move slowly, they're still moving, they're still making progress. And so that's what it reminds me of when I feel like there's so many things I want to do. There's big things I want to do. I'm scared to do it, or I don't even know how to do it. I always think about slow motion is better than no motion. So even if you feel like you don't know where to begin, I read a book called Start Where You Are. And it literally is what I did. I hadn't read the book when I made the Right to Success business, but I literally started with what I had. Like I knew how to type. I knew how to make resumes. I knew how to use Facebook. Like I didn't have anything fancy, but I started with what I had and I was just aggressive with that. So I think when you don't know what to do, think about what you can do, think about what you do have, think about who you do know, and then just start there. But if you start with the list of all the things you don't know and you don't have, you'll never start because you're already scared. And now you're scared and overwhelmed at the same time before you even did anything.
I think it's like, what is it, like the tortoise and the hare?
Yeah.
Like you think that, oh my gosh, everyone's ahead of me. And it's like, no, like I took my time.
And they
Felt like I
might
got
be.
time.
Like, a lot of people
Yeah.
are going to be ahead, some are going to be behind. That's just life. Like you're never going to be. That's just how it works.
It is the thief of joy. That's true. That is true. Did you always know that you wanted to be self-employed, an entrepreneur per se?
No, I don't have any examples of it in my immediate like circle or family, but I just know I didn't like the jobs that I was doing. So that's pretty much why I was like, it has to be something that I like. It has to be like, I'm like, it has to be a way to make money and it has to be a way to not work my fingers to the bone, but it has to be a way to still help people. So I was just trying to figure it out. I've always felt like the sky's the limit. Now, what that means exactly, it's different at different moments in life for me. But I can't sit in a space that I really feel like I've outgrown or I shouldn't have been there in the first place and I just made the wrong choice and now I need to figure out how to get out of it. So, I don't know how to sit and complain about it. I'm like, oh, if I talk about it more than twice, I'm getting on my own nerves now. Like, okay, so yes, we have a problem. What are we gonna do? Like,
Which I saw a post where you were kind of saying about I'm smiling all the time and people think I'm happy, and then you're like, but I gotta move, I gotta move, I gotta move. Where does that come from? Because I feel like it's kind of the idea of stagnation, like water, it should be moving because if it doesn't move, it gets stagnant. But life can sometimes make you feel like I'm stuck. What can we do to be like, oh, I gotta move? Like even if it's just something little where it's like, I can't do all of those things. What can we do to just keep things moving along?
I think you have to have some sort of a goal of what it is that you actually want, the big picture goal, whatever that looks like. And then you just start doing small things in order to get there, and small daily things. Because a lot of times it's consistency that is killing your dream before you even get started. Because you start something and you do it for 5 days and you like, it's not doing anything. You have not been doing anything for 25 years. And now you think in 5 days it's going to look drastically different. Like, it doesn't work that way.
That's true.
You have to be consistent in order to see any type of change. And I really think that people, the universe, all these things, like, they want to see how determined you are to do things before they step in and help. Because if you look at people who have done great things, they had to do a lot of it by themselves before people were like, oh, they're serious about this, let me help them. But if you stop too soon, then you'll never get to that point.
Which leads me to my next question, because I saw your post. You always have a motivational post. And you wrote that your plan is often not the problem. It's your lack of consistency, patience, and discipline that prevents the plan from working. When I read it, I kind of felt called out, because for those of us who kind of feel defeated, it's the taking baby steps towards that. How can we stay disciplined? Because I feel like discipline is such a, I mean, I'm sure you know the David Gogans of the world, like, get up and do it, but for those of us who are kind of like, okay, that's a little bit harsh. Like, you could be a little bit nicer about it. How do we stay disciplined? Because I think for those of us who are, maybe we're working or we're not working, there's still things that we can do to still stay disciplined.
I think it's just a flat out choice. It is a choice and it is a commitment. Because I'll say for myself, like, I've been working out. So this is my physical battle. I've been working out for 5 years with the trainer. I don't like it, still don't like it, but I do it because I know that I should. And when I'm working out, while I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like the way it feels. And then I'm thinking about how sore my body's going to feel the next day while I'm doing the workout. And I'm like, just get out your head, stay in the now, and you're going to feel what you feel later. Then I try to add like new things just so that I can stay on top of it, but I don't like to overwhelm myself. So I'd say some people go too big too soon. So let's say you are trying to lose weight and you're like, all of a sudden you're going to stop eating sweets. You're going to work out 5 days a week. You're going to do cardio. Like, that's too many things if you don't do them already. So just do one thing. Master the one thing. Don't try to do like 5 things at one time, because you're going to feel like this is too much. And it's very unrealistic. If you're going to say, I'm going to stop eating bread today for the rest of my life. No, you're not. Like, just don't even come up with these like wild things that you swear you're going to do. Like, my trainer was trying to get me to eat chicken, broccoli, and sweet potatoes nearly for every meal. Sir, I'm not even going to lie to you. It's not happening. What else can I do? I'm going to be realistic with the things that I can commit to. And that's not one of them. Like, if he said, don't eat chocolate for the rest of your life, sir, it's not happening. What else can I do? And I'm going to fix the things that I can commit to. So I commit to doing 10,000 steps a day, 4 days a week. And I do the workout with him, and then I do a Pilates, yoga, Better Me app, like 4 days a week. But I didn't start out doing all those. I started out with just working out with him. And then I started sprinkling in the other things. So I would say the only way to stay committed is to actually choose to do it. And then every day, no matter how you feel, because your feelings will tell you you're tired, you don't feel well. Like, if you go with your feelings, you're never going to get too far. But if you tell your feelings, we still have to do this. And you can acknowledge your feelings. Like, oh, you're tired. I understand. But we're still doing this 10,000 steps today. Like, it's happening. So, like, last week I was really tired. But I knew I had to do my 10,000 steps. And it was on Thursday, which is the last day that I do the steps. And I really wanted to just be like, I'm just going to go to sleep. I don't want to. But in my head, as long as I get it done before 11:59 p.m., then I did it for the day. So
And then you're done.
I took a nap. Like, I took a 2-hour nap just so I could have enough energy to do the 10,000 steps. I started them at 10 o'clock at night. Like,
Gotta get these steps in.
it took like an hour and 20 minutes, but I was committed to doing it because I said I was going to do it. So, and I really didn't feel like it. You just have to do what you say you're going to do.
Oh my gosh, your word really your bond? Because not just you, but in general, I think when life happens, sometimes everything becomes an excuse, and it is a valid excuse. How do people in hard situations, how do we combat the excuses, or how do we move past those? Because I think some people are like, I get it, I totally understand. And then at a certain time, people are like, girl, it doesn't matter. And it's like, and I feel like it's hard because there should be more flexibility and people should understand that. But for those of us who are like, how do I like push past this? It is a valid excuse, but how can I be resourceful to get those things done? What do you suggest?
Well, you have to think, is your excuse bigger or your goal bigger? That's a personal thing. And if your excuse is bigger, then you didn't want it as bad as you say you did. So if that's the case, then just don't talk about it anymore. That's my thought. Like, you don't want it. So, and that's okay. But be honest with yourself that you don't want it that bad, because you don't want to put forth the effort, the consistent effort to do it. And nobody can make you have that. You have to make the decision that this is what I want. No matter what's happening, I'm going to do it. And if you do slack, you can't just give yourself a pass and be like, oh, I messed up, and just keep giving yourself passes, but then say you want it so bad. Like, pick your battle. You want it or you don't want it, and then decide what you're going to do from there.
I feel well, and I appreciate that because I feel like a lot of people who are going to be listening to the podcast, maybe they're like, maybe in the earlier stages of caregiving, so their career is not, they're not super in the caregiving part, so they still have a career. And I believe that we can financially, if you're good, things are great. So can you tell me what you've done to prepare yourself financially, so if something happens or you have to step into a role of caregiving, what have you done to protect yourself?
Well, I have 3 siblings on my mom's side. So there's 4 of us. But one of my sisters, she's older. She lives in Vegas and she has 6 children. And then I have 2 younger brothers. They're in their 30s and their 20s. And I'm really the most giving or capable of giving financially. Like, I'm the most stable one in life and career, whatever. And I don't like that. I really wanted it to be my sister because I'm like, you're the oldest. I feel like you should have had this, but fine, it's me. So it took me a while to even accept my place in the family in that way. But I've always thought about like saving and investing aggressively in case something happened to my mom, because she's the person that I would be a caregiver for. My dad, I wasn't raised by him, and he is sick, but he has a wife, and I also don't feel the same level of I have to do something for him. Like, I don't want anything to happen to him, but I also don't feel obligated to take care of him if it did. I only feel that way about my mom. So I've always thought about that. I'm thankful that she's healthy, but that's partially why I'm so aggressive in what I do, because while she is healthy, and I hope she's always healthy, I want her to experience life in a good way. So I still like to send her on trips or give her like really good birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. So I even save for things like that. But in the case that she ever got sick, I know that it would be on me. Like, I'm well aware of that. I've accepted that as my place, which is partially why I go so hard at what I do too, because I know that money can solve a lot of things. It's not everything, but it can solve a lot of things. And I want to be able to make sure that she's okay if I was ever in that situation.
No, thank you, because I feel like when people say that idea of money doesn't bring happiness, no, it doesn't, but it brings options.
Yes, it
And
does.
and I wish that we would stop telling people that, because I think then we get in this idea of a scarcity mindset of like, well, I just have to be broke and like all this. And I get it. Like, I see both sides. Like, I know that inequality is wrong. And I also know, like, if you get a really good job or if you figure stuff out financially, it can solve a lot of issues. So that's true. So for you had a big gap, I guess, in a traditional sense of work. How did you tackle that when you applied for your job at BET? And how can other people in the workforce tackle long gaps in their employment when applying to jobs currently?
I literally put the business on there. And I could change the title to whatever I wanted whenever I saw fit. Like, I could be the CEO, but if I thought maybe they think if I'm the CEO of something that I wouldn't be available to them, then I put like a resume writer or a career development counselor, like whatever title I chose. But I really did do that for those years. So I was able to do. I even put temp agencies just so I could use the title sometimes if I was an executive assistant at a temp agency and you need to feel like I did something, then, it was all things that I actually did. So if you are a caregiver, I think people are, they're understanding to that now. You also have COVID years, 2 years where people don't count. So they don't even care that those 2 years didn't happen. So,
That's right. Yeah.
So you get grace on that part.
Right. Not I didn't forget COVID, but like I forgot that, they're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, they don't care about that. It was like, everybody went through that. Yeah, it's fine. We get it. But whatever you've been doing in that time frame, even if you volunteered somewhere, like just put it down. But just make sure your bullet, everything counts. Your whole life counts. Like people are too literal in their minds and they're too like straight line on what things are and what they're not. But all of your experience is important, and all of your experience has given you skill sets that you can use elsewhere. You just need to be able to tell that story on paper to get you in the door so you can talk about it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Living Through the Shift podcast. I'm so happy that you took some time to hang out with us today. While you're here, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, the Russell Hotel. This podcast could not be brought to you without them. They have been so amazing letting us record here at their podcast studio. So if you don't know anything about the Russell is Nashville's #1 boutique hotel, and they also have an amazing program called Rooms for Rooms, which helps solve Nashville's homelessness problem. So definitely check them out. They're doing some amazing things. You can find them at www.russellnashville.com. And we'll see you next week.